Aristophanes, the comedian who declared war on power. What if comedy was not just entertainment, but a weapon powerful enough to challenge politicians, philosophers, and even the sacred beliefs of society? More than 2,400 years ago in ancient Greece, one man turned laughter into rebellion. His name was Aristophanes, and he lived in a world where theater was not merely art. It was public argument, political attack, and social conflict performed before the city itself. In the middle of war, democracy, and intellectual upheaval, Aristophanes discovered something dangerous. People often reveal themselves most honestly when they laugh. And through that laughter, he built comedies that did not simply amuse. They exposed the contradictions, pretensions, and moral failures of Athenian society. One of his most famous works, Lysistrata, begins in a Greek world exhausted by war. Athens, Sparta, and their allies had been tearing each other apart for years, and the destruction seemed endless. But instead of writing another tragedy about heroic sacrifice, Aristophanes imagined something outrageous. What if the people excluded from political power? Women decided to force peace themselves. In the play, a woman named Lysistrata convinces women from across the Greek world to unite under a radical plan. If the men will not stop the war, the women will withhold intimacy until they do. At the same time, they seize the Acropolis and take control of the treasury, striking not only at desire, but at the financial machinery of war itself. What follows is chaos, but not the chaos of battle. Instead, the entire system begins to wobble under the pressure of frustration, desire, and wounded pride. Soldiers lose discipline. Leaders grow desperate. Political authority starts to look ridiculous. Through this absurd premise, Aristophanes forces the audience to confront an unsettling idea. Perhaps war is not a grand display of strength, but a symptom of ego, vanity, and emotional immaturity. To understand how Aristophanes could write something like this, we need to understand the world he lived in. He was born in 5th century BCE Athens during the great age of Athenian democracy. But beneath its brilliance, the city was unstable, divided by faction, worn down by war, and filled with anxiety about power, truth, and survival. It was a society alive with argument, ambition, and competing visions of what wisdom should be. Aristophanes became the greatest master of what we now call old comedy, a form of theater that was fearless, aggressive, and astonishingly direct. Unlike modern satire, which often hides behind suggestion, Aristophanes could openly attack real politicians, mock public figures by name, and drag the city's most powerful personalities onto the stage as comic targets. And he did this before large civic audiences in a theatrical culture, bold enough to allow unusually direct public mockery, though never without political risk. His comedy was not escape, it was confrontation. That becomes even clearer in The Clouds, where he targets one of the most famous intellectual figures ever associated with Athens, Socrates. But Aristophanes is doing more than attacking one man. He transforms Socrates into a comic symbol of intellectual fashion, verbal trickery, and ideas drifting too far from ordinary human judgment. In the play, Socrates is suspended in a basket above the ground, claiming he must rise closer to the heavens in order to think properly. From that ridiculous position, he investigates bizarre questions, studies strange natural theories, and teaches the art of argument in a way that makes cleverness seem detached from truth. Philosophy is exaggerated into spectacle. Thought becomes performance. Intelligence, or rather the misuse of it, becomes a source of comedy rather than authority. Beneath the humor lies a deeper warning. Aristophanes is asking a question that still matters. Does sounding intelligent really mean being wise? Can a society become so impressed by clever arguments that it loses the ability to distinguish truth from manipulation? Through laughter, he challenges the audience to distrust empty brilliance and question the prestige of ideas that seem sophisticated but morally hollow. If the clouds challenges intellectual pretension, then the frogs takes the argument even further, into the underworld itself. In this play, Dionysus, the god of theater, descends to the realm of the dead because Athens is in crisis, and he wants to bring back a great tragedian who might restore the city's cultural strength. But nothing unfolds with heroic dignity. Dionysus disguises himself as Heracles, yet behaves more like a nervous traveler than a divine rescuer, panicking, complaining, and regretting the journey almost from the start. Along the way, he crosses a swamp and is interrupted by a chorus of frogs chanting the unforgettable nonsense refrain, Brekekikex coax coax. A descent into the land of the dead turns into absurd musical interruption, as if even myth itself refuses to stay solemn. When Dionysus finally reaches the underworld, he does not find silence or revelation. He finds a contest. Euripides and Aeschylus, two giants of tragedy, are locked in a fierce debate over language, poetry, and what kind of art can still guide a city in decline. They do not merely argue over style. They argue over seriousness, moral vision, civic responsibility, and the purpose of culture itself. Even in the world of the dead, art becomes warfare. Through all of this, Aristophanes reveals something essential about human nature. Even in myth, even in crisis, even in the presence of gods, people cannot stop competing over whose ideas deserve authority. And that is why Aristophanes still matters. He understood that comedy is not the opposite of seriousness. It is one of the sharpest tools for exposing it. He used laughter to challenge war, question power, attack vanity, mock intellectual arrogance, and reveal the weaknesses hidden beneath public confidence. In his world, nothing was too respected to be questioned, and nothing was too powerful to be ridiculed. Aristophanes did not simply write plays. He turned the stage into a battlefield of ideas. He created a mirror for society, one that reflected its pride, confusion, and contradictions through laughter. And in doing so, he became one of the earliest great rebels of thought. Because sometimes the most dangerous truth is not spoken as a sermon or shouted in anger. Sometimes it arrives as a joke the audience laughs at first, and only understands a moment later.